All right, my friends, welcome to another episode of the RPG Backlog. This is our Final Fantasy Adventure, episode 1. We have played a little bit of the game. We have Tom here, we have Anthony, we have Travis, and we have me, of course. How is everyone doing?
Donald jumping in one.
Fantastic.
It's the worry of being like, don't want to step over everybody else talking, and then no one talks.
Let's just have a silent podcast. That'd be great. Yeah. 40 minutes of nothing.
Okay.
And that's how we felt about this game.
It's been good. I actually want to play more, so I'm glad we're recording.
Yes.
Yeah, I was bummed. So after we did the episode 0, I turned around and immediately, like after we got off of that recording, I sat down and played all the way through to Wendell. And it's been kind of hard to not, because I don't want it to fall out of my head if I play something after that. So it's been hard to not go back to it. So I'm glad we're talking now.
I'll echo that. I mean, I didn't do it immediately after we did the recording. I did it on Friday morning. But when I got to Wendell, I was like, oh, I have to stop.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And now here we are, Thursday afterwards. I'm like, do I remember what was going on? A, but B, I'm like, why did I have to wait so long to go back and start playing again?
Yeah, because if you can remember, we're doing this in chunks, but recording in chunks, but you can continue to play as long as you can remember what you played, which is the challenge.
Yeah, I would start meshing it all together and start putting stuff out there that you're like, wait, we haven't done that yet. So it's better if I stick with the chunks.
Well, for me, I agree. I'm excited to get back to it. I felt like I just started to learn how to play the game by the time I got to Wendell. I was having a maddening, frustrating time in the middle of there, and if it weren't for this podcast, I would have put it down. So I'm really glad that this podcast exists because I pushed through that. We'll talk about it later, and found some enjoyment out of the game. So, who wants to start? Maybe I'll go to you, Anthony. You said that you're happy we're recording, so you can get back into it. What's exciting?
I mean, so I have no experience with this game before, at all. I'm like, yep, never even seen it played by someone else. So getting into it, and from the age of it, I was unsure what it was going to be. Surprising amount of mechanics for a game of its age, and that really opened up pretty fast. You get new weapon not too long in, and then it feels like it's throwing you new weapons pretty quickly after that. We have like 4 now.
I was surprised by that as well. I remember having a bunch of different kinds, but I guess sort of a spoiler, but like you get a better sword, you get a better. It's kind of I looked at the wiki because I was just curious because I couldn't remember if there was like a level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of every single weapon. And that's not really how it goes. There's 2 or 3 swords. There's like 2 whips. It's sort of sporadic. But it was surprised that you cover most of the breadth of weapon types within the first couple of hours of the game.
Yeah. And we were chatting because, I mean, I'm sure I could read the manual more that we linked last week, but I was like, I'll just play and see how it goes. And that bar at the bottom, it took me forever to figure out what that was.
Can you explain it? Because I was making guesses, but I never read about it. Now more silence. Oh, can't
I mean,
Go ahead. No, explain it because we were having that conversation where Larry and I were like,
it is a weapon power. Like if it's full, then you do a special type of it. Your weapon does a special attack the next time you attack.
So my guess was right.
Your guess was right. Some of the weapons have other attacks, though, like if you're moving or pressing a direction and using them.
That's why I did the sword thrust, probably then.
Yes, the sword has a thrust. If you're like moving in the direction and pressing a button, it will thrust forward as opposed to swiping.
Which in my experience is a lot faster, the thrust. Like even at the very beginning when you have to fight the sort of cat-looking thing, I was noticing that because you kind of got to, at least for me, you're in danger if you're in front of him, but he shuffles side to side. So you have to come in and get him from the side and then back out sort of thing before he changes direction. And what I was finding is that when I was just relying on like the big arc of the sword, it was taking too long and he would turn around and come at me before I could get out of the way. So the thrust was the way to go, but it takes a little more mechanical prowess to pull that off.
So I agree with you, but the thing I don't know if this was unique to me, but my experience with that cat thing, both times that you fight it, is it would get to a certain point on the screen and he would stop every time and go back towards the top. So I just waited that I was a little shy of the midpoint and he would never touch me. He'd always stop just in front of me and jump back up towards the top of the screen. So I just stood there and just hammering away on the button. Seeing the little bar and being like, okay, I know that has to mean something, but I don't know what it means and I don't care. And just kept
and at the
hitting
beginning
it
of the
until
game, it's painfully slow. Like there's no, you would be waiting for, you know, I don't know, a minute more, two, something like that. It feels like it takes forever to fill up. And so
that's the only way that I found out. I set my Switch down to go to the kitchen to get some water, came back, and I was like, oh, the bar is red. Sweet. And then I did that move. I was like, oh, got it. But yeah, does it speed up later?
Yeah, that's one of the, I think when you, or at least maybe this is, I thought I noticed it filling faster. I think one of the, maybe wisdom or will, one of those, I think makes the fill rate of that go faster.
I did not notice that.
The only time I noticed it was one time similar to you, Larry, where I put down the Switch, came back, I was like, oh, it's full, and I had the axe, and when I went to hit something in front of me, it killed that, and the axe went flying across the screen and hit another guy and killed it and came back to me. I'm like, okay, cool, but I don't want to wait 30, 40 seconds for that to happen again.
Yeah.
Will is the stat that it increases that fill speed.
Oh God, there's such depth to this 91 Game Boy game.
Mm-hmm. I'm also curious to know, because definitely when it's full, you do the special attack. This is my perception. I don't know if it's correct, but there's some scaling where, I mean, let's say it's not full, but it's 90% of the way there. I felt like I got tricked a couple of times into, like, you're walking around and it's most of the way full, and then there's some guy pops up and you kill him, and then you go, oh, I can one-shot these guys, and you turn around and you go after the rest of them, and suddenly I can't, because it was only, I feel like there's some scaling in terms of how much your attack does is like roughly proportional to that bar, but I'm not sure how closely they're linked.
Yeah, I don't know where the cut, like what the separation is. Like, do you have to be at 25%, 20%, 10% full?
Yeah.
But it does do that, because that was a thing that I did after we had the conversation in Discord last week about what it was doing. I looked it up, and one of the guys was like, whenever you're fighting a boss, it's better to wait till it fills all the way up before you attack them, because the amount of damage you do will be so much higher that it'll actually kill it faster than you just sitting there hammering on it at the lowest level. So
just smack it and then kind of run away a bit until it fills up and then come back.
Yeah. Oh. They were saying hit it and then run around until it fills back up, come back and hit them again. That you'll do, the amount of damage you do is so much higher that it's actually faster to do it that way than it is to just sit there and hammer away on it. I haven't tested that theory because I don't have the patience to wait that long between each one of those things charging up.
Oh man, I finished your sentence in my head. He's gonna say he doesn't have enough patience for that. Yes,
I mean, you knew that was coming. Player.
Jesus, man, like I don't think that's true, but okay.
Well, okay, in this game I don't have the patience. In Dark Souls or a Souls game, I have the patience where I can sit there for 20 minutes watching a boss do all of its attacks where I know what I'm getting myself into. Yeah. But for some reason, you give me a game like old school Zelda, I'm just like, oh, I'm just gonna mash the button and things gonna die.
Swing sword.
Yeah.
Literally. Oh, you become the button masher like I am and everything.
Yeah. Yes.
I hate those games like when I'm streaming where I think it was Final Fantasy Rebirth, where like when you're hitting the button, it like flashes in the corner what button you're hitting. It's like, stop it. Don't tell people.
Don't let them know that you're just mashing the shit out of the button.
You've been outed.
I'm very much outed.
I feel like this game kind of, I mean, Larry, how do you feel like you fared mashing here? Because I feel like this game, that's my recollection from when I was younger, when I didn't know any better, is you just go in and you start hacking at stuff. I feel like this game kind of punishes you for that a little bit. Like I was noticing, if you don't approach enemies carefully, you can kind of get pinned in a corner, and it's not, depending, even just some of the like just kind of trash mobs on the overworld, you're like 4 touches away from death, basically.
I wrote in my notes here, comically low HP.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it started off for me. I only died a couple of times at the beginning, but I was like, oh, as a kid, this would have driven me nuts and I would have probably walked away. But now I know this is part of the thing. So just be smarter. So I wasn't button mashing. But I was killing a bunch of shit because I was lost in a dungeon forever trying to get keys because I had bought keys at a shop. And then I was in whatever Kit's thing or whatever.
Cat's Mansion or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. And I know that there was the door that was locked and behind it was the coffins with the girl. But I didn't have a key. So
That's
I was
where you ran out of keys at the coffin spot.
at the coffin door. Yes. I used them all. But I was opening every single door. I'm like, I got tons of keys. Then I get there. I'm like, I don't have any more fucking keys. And that's when I realized, oh, the number is the uses thing. Okay. So obviously there's mobs everywhere. They're going to drop a key. No, they fucking didn't. I was level 15 before I left that dungeon.
Oh my God.
It was
That's
genocide
so
in the mines all over again from the Final Fantasy podcast.
Because I did the exact opposite of that. Because I didn't know that, like, there's a couple of places where you like do something and the door opens. And I thought, oh, these doors are closed because I haven't done the thing yet, basically, that they would open later or something like that.
Oh, no, they opened with my key.
With your key, but you have to equip it to sort of make it go like that. And I don't I don't remember. There's like no tutorial to explain to you how to do that. You just have to say, oh, there's a door that won't open. Let me try this key.
That's what I did. Yeah.
Not specifically with the key. Well, no, not specifically with the key, but with the pick. What are they called? The
Mattock.
Yeah. They're like, oh, when you get an item, you have to equip it to be able to use it. Now, that, I guess, probably because I didn't think of this either, to be blatantly honest, as I did the same thing as you. I was like, oh, the door doesn't open. It's not using my key. So I guess it's something else, because even back in the original freaking Zelda from the mid-'80s, like if you had the key, you just walked into the door, and the door just opened. Yeah. Right? You didn't need to equip the damn thing to get the door. And then when I got to the bronze door where you would go up to it and it didn't open. It's like, oh, why isn't it opening? I have the bronze key. So then I equipped it and then the door opened. I was like, okay, I guess I need to equip all keys to get doors to open.
I think you're right. I think that's the tutorial, right? That you basically cannot progress until you figure out that mechanic. But then it immediately turns on you, and then the other keys are sort of these finite commodities. I think that's really interesting what you brought up, the contrast to the original Legend of Zelda, because I feel like with maybe, notable exceptions that you could count on one hand, in Zelda games, they're super duper careful that like the number of keys you can find is the number of locked doors in the dungeon. It is not possible for you to use the key in such a way that you soft lock yourself out of the dungeon. Like you can't do any of that stuff. And
what if I told you I figured out that it used keys again if the door's closed?
Yeah, right. It did.
Oh.
Yeah. That's why I lost my key. Because I was like, it just used it again. I already opened that fucking door, and it just used the key again.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. It doesn't save saving screens. Enjoy.
Yeah.
That's why I was decimated. My key, like I've already been here. I get lost in RPGs, so I was lost going in the same places again and again, opening the same fucking doors again and again, losing the keys, having no keys. And I was just like, you know what? What you're talking about with the philosophy for Legend of Zelda, where they've made it so you can't screw yourself. I'm like, this is a game from '91. I'm trusting that because of the people who are working on this game, who went on to do just amazing things, and the way it's already started, the way the thoughtful care has been put into the weapons, and somehow like the weapons kind of clear, the scythe clearing the grass, or the whip letting you go from a post or whatever. They've thought through shit. I can't get stuck here. I'm not stuck. I'm just going to trust that I can find a key. And I swear to God, it took an hour to find a key, but I found it, and now I'm just like super buff.
You're not stuck. I mean, you knew where to go buy keys. So, I mean, you could have just gone back and bought them.
But I'm also stubborn. I'm like, I know that it's here somewhere. Yes, thank you. Someone's going to drop the key. I'm staying here till they drop the key. Because I benefit, right?
As a developer, I was just saying that is, I'm sure, what they said to justify the whole thing back then. Was going like, no, they can't soft lock themselves here. If they run out of keys, they can just go back and buy more. Doesn't matter if it's annoying as hell. But
well, there's an analog to Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, which is out now, which is like people are like the difficulty is so hard. It's like you don't have to face that boss. You don't have to face that boss without your ashes and a summon. Like you can use the tools. No, I'm not going to use the tools. I'm just going to, it's like you're doing this to yourself. And I did it to myself. But for me, the benefit was I knew that as I kept grinding, I would just gain levels, and that would help me later in the game. I hope.
So I guess a question that I have, because my experience is limited, but can you guys recall any other game where there is like a key economy as opposed to them being like a finite number that each one is essentially paired with a finite number of doors, as opposed to here where it's like, yeah, there's with what you were saying about them resetting, there's infinitely many locked doors, and thus you can acquire infinitely many keys in the manner of your choosing.
Off the top of my head, no. But
No.
It seems uncommon, right?
I'm sure it's not the most common. Is this the only game that has done it? Probably not. But
I only think of lockpicks and like Fallout.
Yeah.
But you can always
Yeah.
get more hairpins or whatever.
I was going to say, I'm thinking more of, is there an economy of ways to open doors in other games? Yes. Lockpicks is a great example. I'm trying to remember what the game is, but it was the same thing where if you didn't have a lockpick and every time you tried to pick a lock, you would decimate. I think it's actually Baldur's Gate 3, right? You had to have lockpicks, and if you failed, you would lose it.
You lose lockpick. You use your thieves' tools.
Yeah,
right.
So you had to have the thieves' tools, but it's not so much of the difference being is like once it was unlocked, it's unlocked.
Yeah.
End of story.
Like go off screen and come back and like, fuck, I gotta roll 20 again.
Right. This was one of the weird ones where I ran into the same issue. Well, I didn't run into the issue, but I came to the same realization that, if you walk too far away from that door, and even if you go to the next screen, it stays unlocked, but if you go past it one more time, then it relocks itself. I was like, oh shit. It locks itself, and I was freaking out because I bought 4 keys, and I was like, oh god, it's going to tear through my keys. And I was 2 minutes away from Wendell before I realized that the number next to the item was how many uses it had. I was sitting there thinking, like, because I was like, oh, there's a cure 2, there's a cure 3, there's a cure 1. My brain's thinking, these are different levels of what it does for the cure.
Why do I have so many cure 2s?
Right. Never my brain did a register like, no, Dumas, that's how many uses that item has.
Well, someone clearly didn't just play with the mattock instantly as soon as they got it and try and kill a bunch of stuff with it, and then run out
you
of
had
it
no more
instantly.
mattock.
Yeah. No, I did not kill stuff with it. I did destroy every rock in my sight, and then it disappeared. I was like, what the fuck? That's the sad thing, is I instantly did that within like 4 screens of getting it. And I didn't notice that it had a 7 when I equipped it. I just equipped it and ran, and didn't notice any point in time that it was going down. So I literally played from then on until, like I said, 5 minutes before I got to Wendell before I realized what that number actually was, sadly.
Oh. Well, we all learned a very important lesson last week.
Well,
I
if
mean,
you
I
think
think
about
close to not having enough mattocks. That almost happened.
but they drop. Like eventually, I
got a drop. Like I had 1 hit left, and I'm like, crap, I don't think that's going to be enough. And then 1 screen, I got another drop, and I was like, cool, all right, never mind. I'm good on mattocks for a while.
Holy shit.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I have had a different experience. Like the keys and the mattocks, I was deleting these things from my inventory because my inventory was so full from this stuff. I was like, dude, go away.
Yeah, I did that with Cure 2s. I had so many Cures trying to get keys, and then I was running around so many rooms, and every time you leave the room, the place where it's like you had to push the open chest onto the switch, and then, those kind of things, and then the rocks that were over the secret staircase, you had to keep breaking those rocks, and eventually, I didn't have mattocks, and I'm like, okay, I got a key. Oh fuck! I don't have a mattock now. Now I gotta get a mattock. That was the moment where I was like, I'm gonna snap this fucking Switch cartridge. I'm done, Tom. I'm sorry. And I was like, no, my friendship is too strong. I have to do this. I'm gonna do it. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I pulled through. I really enjoyed it by the end. But boy, there was 20 minutes where my wife was like, is this fun?
You're like, no, it's not actually, but this is where
This
I'm at.
really not. Yeah. This is what I'm doing to myself.
I stocked up on candies, which I refused to eat earlier because I thought I needed them for later, and pillows. I kept getting like zillions of pillow drops at the end.
What are the pillows for?
Yes, please. What are they?
There's a dark status effect where the screen like inverts and it's really hard to see stuff.
Oh.
They fixed that, which I ran into once. But the thing you should know about dark is that it's on a timer. And so if you just like kind of fart around and run away from stuff and just run out the clock, it'll fix itself. So when I realized that, it was like, oh, all of these are going in the trash so that I can hold more curative items and mattocks.
Didn't get dark.
Yeah, I didn't get dark either.
I was like, what is this for? Why do I have a pillow? Can I use it like a tent? Like, is it like just go to sleep?
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's like it's my portable inn. And I used it and it's like nothing happened. I was like, well, I guess that assumption's wrong. So
but they let you use it, right? Like
they do. I protect you in this game.
I had to get rid of shit.
Let the player be dumb.
Yeah,
my inventory was that's the story of my gaming history. But I just had to use the pillows, I had to use the cures. I didn't need to use the cures just to clear inventory. I didn't know you could drop stuff. You drop stuff, Travis?
Yeah, there's at the very bottom of your inventory there's a delete option. So if you click it once, like there's a trash can at the very bottom, and you click on it, it deletes it out of your inventory.
Oh, got it. Did when you were all equipping an item, did you then have to go back and equip your magic again after you used the item?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I was like, I must be doing this wrong because that's annoying.
No, like this is the key thing that is interesting from this, where I now have experience playing with secretive mana and being like, oh, the quality of life for switching items in secretive mana is so much better. I mean, it's the wheel. Like you pauses, a wheel comes up around your character, you can select what you want. It is this system still. It's just presented in a way that is faster to do what you want to do.
I'm like, I must be.
Didn't you have more? There's 4 like action buttons on the Super NES, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And here you only have 2. So I think that's
like there's a lot more. Yeah. You can see I'm like playing this and I'm like, oh, I see where these systems started and how they got much improved.
SNES had 6, didn't it? Because it didn't have shoulder buttons too.
It had LNR as well.
Yeah. That's right. But I mean, to me, I was just sitting there looking at it. And within a few seconds, I was like, "Oh, original Legend of Zelda. Hit select, pick your item, select it to be, go."
Yep.
Right. That's what I did. Now, granted, does it suck? Yeah, but at the time, that's probably the limitations of the systems and what they could do. Let's be real here, right?
Yeah.
Well, and think about that, and maybe Anthony can speak to this more than any of us, but the Game Boy, I think of it as a pretty limited system, and I think about later, I think it was Katase worked on Chrono Trigger and whatever else, like all the stuff that was in there. There is a lot of shit in this game for the 1991 Game Boy game.
Yeah, definitely a lot. I think one of the reasons why like Game Boy games at that time could have quite a bit more in them for like the memory that the carts actually were is because everything was just monochrome.
Okay.
Like they don't have to store any color data, which allowed them probably to store way more sprites than an NES cart in that regard. But yeah, no, it has a lot in there. It was wild, like doing this to Wendell, being like, "What did we fight? We fought like that cat thing. We fought a Hydra and a vampire
with a whip." What a vampire with a whip! That was the best. Like,
the whip is really good. I love the whip.
The whip is amazing. I love it. It's my favorite weapon.
Wait,
that's the whip is the whip the thing that lets you jump over the traps too?
Yeah, it's the chain.
Yeah, it's a chain flail or
it's
a
whip.
flail.
It's a fucking
chain. Chain whip.
I was impressed. So when you get what's her name, Fuji, back out of the coffin, no less, which is sort of fun.
You mean East?
Oh,
my name, my character is West and East.
When you get her back at some point, I think to get to Wendell or maybe to get out of the castle or something, you have to basically chain whip over one of those gaps.
Yep.
And I was like, what's she going to do? And I think the answer is she respawns when you get to the next screen.
That's right. That's right.
Yep. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I just can't do it
wave
while
it
I was
away.
watching. Yeah.
Well, I really think the weapon system is interesting because of the secondary stuff the weapons do with the environment. I wonder if there's more to that as we go. It almost feels Metroidvania-ish, where you can't go do shit over here unless you can, whip across or cut the grass here to get through or whatever.
Conversely, though, it's a little like Breath of the Wildy, where they give them to you all kind of early, because I don't know that there's that many more types left. If you look like in the screen where you pick those, I think there's only like 8 slots or something like that.
There's only 2 more according to the...
That we don't have.
Yeah, in the manual, there's sword, axe, spear, sickle, chain flail, or you can call it chain whip, and the Morning Star are the only 6 that they listed. So unless there's something else that they're just not listing in here, which it might be, I don't know.
Those are all the ones that I remember. The Morning Star is pretty sick.
Well, yeah, from what I read, that one breaks. That acts like your mattock once you have it.
I was wondering. I was like, please.
Very cool. Yeah. Like, I can bash enemies and I can break rocks. This is great. And walls. This is good. Whenever I can choose a Morning Star, I will.
I mean, I was using the axe until I got the sickle, and then I was like, wait, this thing spins around me? Yes, this is the only weapon I'm using because it hits everything around me, and I don't have to face it or try and line it up. I just hit button, and stuff comes near me, and it starts dying.
It's the button spam weapon.
Yep.
Perfect. I was also surprised in a pleasant way how compact the map feels. Like, the map screen is rudimentary, but it highlights the towns.
But like nothing else, right?
And nothing else. Exactly.
It just shows you screen. Basically, you can be like, okay, how many screens am I away from this thing that I'm trying to get to? Theoretically, because you don't actually know that the environment of those screens is like, so you might have to do a weird
that they're not all connected. Yeah.
Old school.
I mean, the utility of it is sort of dubious, though. Like, there's no landmarks on it, right? All you get is a town, and like you said, that's not. It's interesting at the very beginning of the game when I think you are maybe looking for who's the first Gemma Knight. Bogard, maybe is his name.
Bogard. Yeah.
When you're looking for him, the map doesn't work. Like,
I remember that.
There's a point in the game where it like suddenly works, and I kind of thought maybe somebody would give it to you or something like that, but no, they just decide to switch it on. I think when you begin in earnest, as it were.
I mean, I'm right at home with this. This reminds me 100% of the original old school Legend of Zelda. Like, the map there was the same thing. You open it up, it's like, okay, here's just this dot on this giant gray screen. And you just know that you have to go over X number screens to get there. And hopefully you've memorized what that route is and you don't try to take the direct route and just hit walls. So
I wish I had my old hand-drawn NES Zelda maps.
Mm-hmm.
I wish you did.
I had graph paper, and I would just graph paper draw the map.
Well,
that's how they made it. That's how the map was made originally, right?
Yeah, we've seen that in the in some making of or some sort of archival footage. Well, I was thinking I showed relatedly tangent here, but Metroid Zero Mission came up on Nintendo Switch Online, and I surprised my wife because she tells me stories about basically the only NES game she ever played besides Mario 3 was Metroid, the original. And as she was playing Zero Mission, it's a remake of the original Metroid, she pulls up the map and she's like, what the hell? There's a map? And I was like, what do you mean? There was no map in the original Metroid? Apparently there wasn't. And you had to basically draw your own as you went?
Yeah.
That's
probably.
Wow. That's wow. I get very lost in a Metroidvania with no map.
What I remember, but I could be wrong, but I remember just drawing everything because I had to deal with the old school Zelda too, because again, it was just this giant gray screen. It's like you're a dot on it. It's like, sweet. It doesn't really tell me how these things are connected. I have an idea of how many box screens I need to move, but that's about it. So I did the same thing Anthony did. I pulled out a piece of graph paper and it's like boxes, and I had little lines to show me how all of them were connected. And then I turned around and said, okay, puts our landmarks, like this is where Dungeon 1 is, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, et cetera. This is where the Master Sword is. This is where the White Sword is, Magic Sword, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the scary thing is even to this day, I haven't played that game in probably 15 years, and I still have that map memorized in my head. So
it's a pretty iconic map.
That's because you made it, right? I mean, like that's how you learn by doing, sort of thing. So that's incredible.
So overall, we are very positive on this so far. One question I did want to ask is the most, I don't know, cosmetic one. What color palette are you using when you're playing on this? Because you could have a couple different filters.
Shit, I have to boot it back up to tell you.
I've gone through all of them. I haven't stuck with a specific one.
Okay, you're kind of going through each one.
Yeah, I always have it big though. I don't like the small.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I tried to do the green one because I thought I should because it's like a original Game Boy one.
Yeah.
And it wasn't enough contrast, so I went back to the I think the black and white is the default. That's what I've stuck with.
I had the same problem with the green one. I wanted to do green because that felt authentic, and I was like, I'm having a hard time reading this as well as I want to, so I switched to the red. I'm using the red hued one.
It looks nice in your screenshot.
I was gonna say I'm using the big red one.
Yeah, it looks good. I hate red, but I do like the red of the three the best. So no blue.
Yeah, I wanted to say that red one. I was like, is that what like a Game Boy Color would try to do to it?
Oh, maybe.
Could be. Yeah.
Because I mean, Game Boy Color. That's kind of what they did.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that what they're trying to emulate?
Well, so when I was going through it, like the green one, I'm like, dude, that's just too, like even now I'm looking at it right now, I'm like, it's not good.
No.
And then when I went to the black and white, I don't know, it just didn't. Something about it, the grayscale, it just too bright. It just feels wrong to me, and I don't know what it is. But then when I go to the red one, I'm like, this feels like what it should be if it had been pulled forward into a system and not completely redone to add color to it. Which sounds weird saying it, but I think, Anthony, that might be what a GBA did to it back in the day. And that's why I just feel like it, and I've never played this game, mind you, but I know I had put old school Game Boy games into a GBA, and I feel like that's what it did to some of them. So I think that might be why I locked onto it.
And I think you're right. Like that red hue even looks sort of vaguely reminiscent of like I played a bunch of Pokemon Red on Game Boy Color growing up, and that looks familiar. So
I just looked it up. I was like, what? Not this game, but I'm like, what does a Game Boy Color do to a non Game Boy Color made game? And it's effectively this. It just has a palette of 4 colors that it kind of assigns to different white, light, gray, dark gray, black. And so this is probably what the game looked like on a GB Color. I never had a GB Color, so I have no clue.
I mean, the first Game Boy I had was a GBA, so...
Yeah, me too. And I had an original Game Boy, where I only have a memory of playing Tetris. A lot of Tetris.
Of course. That's the story, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember how many millions of copies, but everybody had that game for that. I never had a Game Boy. It was GBA was the first one as well. Travis and I had maybe bought them nearly at the same time.
Yeah, and tried to mod them at the same time.
Yep.
What did you try to mod?
The fucking backlight.
The backlight.
Oh, okay.
I went over to his place at Davis and ripped open. I did mine first, and with a soldering iron, put on the backlight, close it up, worked great. I could not get Travis's to work.
We couldn't get the son of a bitch open. Like both of us were trying so hard. It's like I don't know what it was, and like Larry's like, I'm afraid to break it. I'm like, all right, fuck it, let me try it. And I'm sitting there prying to the point where I'm like, I'm going to break this shit if I go any further with it. So I just said, you know what? F it. It is what it is. And we gave up on it. So somewhere, probably still to this day, in some box, I have that GBA and that stupid screen, the backlight for it, somewhere floating around in a box that just never did anything with.
You guys needed what I had, which was one of those little worm lights that plugged into the link cable spot. And...
But that was just that was a light shining on it.
Yeah, it didn't work very good. But
that's why I don't want one of those. That's why we bought the backlight to mod it. I was like, this. I can't see this shit. You go out in the sunlight and you're like, I can't see this shit now. Like this is, I don't know what. This is weird. So what's next? I don't know what our next chunk is, but this one walkthrough, the 4.1 through 4.34, kind of matched what we were doing, to be honest. So we're in Wendell, and then it says Dwarf Cave, Silver Mine, Gaia's Cave, Refueling Lake, Airship, Manos, Chocobo. I don't know, Tom, if you know where like the next natural section is of that.
I mean, I would say for argument's sake, what we got through through chapter 4, or we got up to chapter 4?
We went 4.1 through 4.8.
Through 4.8.
I mean, we arrived at 4.8, I guess. I guess we didn't do 4.8.
When does it roll over to 5? Is there a bunch more stuff?
No, it's just 4.1 all the way through 4.34. So.
Oh gosh, that's a weird way to
do it. So just based on those names, does any of that trigger like some sort of natural?
I'm just looking at this whole thing here. The next main town is Jad 416.
Okay. That makes sense.
Well, then yeah, let's plan for that, because that's the same number of points, and if they're roughly equivalent. How's it spelled?
Jadd. That's the one I just had to look it up. I'm like, that sounds like a town name. Weird fantasy town name.
The names in this are bizarre. Also, just not to drag us all the way back in, but like, a bunch of people die in this game. Like Willie, dead.
God.
Hasim, dead. Like,
this person has passed away.
Yes.
Like, oh Jesus.
And it's never really explained how or why. And you just sort of. So I'm curious if the body count keeps racking up as we continue on through, or.
Well, if I get stuck in another fucking dungeon, yeah, it absolutely will. just piles of corpses.
Make sure you have a lot of keys on you.
Whatever the next thing is, I'm just going to buy 20. I mean, I have so much fucking gold from all of that I can buy. I'm going to buy Jad. I'm going to get there and be able to buy the whole town. I'll be the mayor of Jad when you show up.
Wait. Okay, so I asked this question in the chat, but I'm just curious. Again, what level was everybody when they got to Wendell?
I was 12.
I think I responded the same. I think I'm 12. Yeah. 12.
15, baby.
Okay, so I got you beat because I'm at 16.
So what the hell?
How much gold do you? Oh, dude, I farmed, man. I fucking farmed.
Okay, yeah, sure.
In the swamps, I found an area where those little lizard guys kept respawning, and they were pretty easy to kill. And they gave.
Oh, I know.
They
gave the key originally, right?
Yeah, they gave cures and everything else. I'm like, shit, dude. I'm just gonna sit here and load up on it because every 4 or 5 of them gives me a cure. So, and that's about. I was like, I'm gonna do this because it levels me up, and I can easily heal myself since I've lost the Fuji or the girl. Because thank you, Tom, for telling us about the ask thing. Because whenever I had her in my group, I was like, you are a godsend.
Right? It's like easy mode sort of thing.
Wait, every time you have her with you, you can ask her, and she heals you back up.
Yeah. It's not an immediate heal like cure or anything. It's like a regen, but
that's cool.
It's great. But you can do it in the middle of any time.
And I think there's a cap on it. Like when I got higher levels and I got her back, I would ask her and it would stop. Then you just ask her again. Like there's no penalty for any of it.
Yeah. And FYI, she also cures status effects, because there was one time I didn't have anything to get rid of poison, and she was in my group, and I asked her to cure me, and it cleared the poison and everything off.
Nice.
So I did find the other guy that you get, the I'm assuming he's a mage because he shot fire. I found him annoying because there was the mobs at that point in time that could only be damaged by fire.
And there's no mechanic to direct him.
Right. Nope. He's just like randomly spitting it out. I'm like, dude, asshole, it's behind you. Like, why are you shooting to your left when it's very clearly to your right? And I'm sitting there going, like, running around trying to dodge shit, being like, dude, can you please kill this thing? Because I can't do shit to it. But
yeah, that was frustrating. I was desperately hoping that it was like, if he would shoot like towards the half of the screen that you were on, right? That there would be some way, because you don't take friendly fire from him, and so that would be kind of a way I feel like they could code that, but you are at the mercy of the random number generator there.
I am glad that I'm not the only one that was like, I was trying everything. I'm like, I'm going to go face this way. I'm going to move him this way. I'm going to do this, trying to get him. And I would literally get him to move to the right. I'm like, all right, it's right in front of him. And then he would stop and turn around behind him and shoot. I'm like, dude, seriously, I had you lined up perfectly and you decided to go that. Yeah. So I was so happy when I finally got fired. And I was like, all right, screw you. I can deal with these things on my own.
The fire is pretty good. It has a lower like magic cost than the cure. And so I felt like I could pretty much just use it mostly whenever I wanted to and didn't necessarily have to worry about running out of MP.
Yeah, I just used the cure items.
I ended up using ether quite a bit to fill my MP because the fire, some of the enemies that you can only defeat with fire, or maybe some other weapon I wasn't using at the time. But
there are a bunch of fire only enemies, and it sounds like you went through all of those maybe 2.5 times more than was intended.
Oh, I mean, that's many times more than that.
Do you guys remember how you get the fire magic? I kind of forgot that. There's a book somewhere, maybe?
I thought it was a book.
Yeah. Was it? No, it was after the Hydra. Defeat the Hydra, and there's 2 chests. After you defeat the Hydra, one of them is fire, learning fire.
And you have to, that also is, I think, a teaching moment for the game where you have to like knock one of the chests out of the way to get to the second one.
Yep.
But I think as far as the way that you get magic, I much prefer the pillow talk in the hotel room in Cats. But I guess the other thing is okay too.
Well, there's our episode title. Tom prefers pillow talk. I love it. Okay, so we're gonna go to Jad. Excellent. Any final thoughts for this episode, my friends?
No, we covered everything I had in my notes. It was good.
I'm just enjoying the game. Like it's very reminiscent of Legend of Zelda, just a little more complex, and I'm loving that.
Yeah, it's coming across to me as like the people who've done great things later that I like, their early stuff, and I can see it and feel it, and it's cool to see like the early stages of their career. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Agreed.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. If you like our podcast, please rate it on your podcast service of choice, and we will be back next week with more Final Fantasy Adventure.